Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Steven?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I am your host, Stephen Billings, and as always is your other host, Andrew Cabral. He's here. How you doing, man?
Yes, I am. Doing good. We are back in the saddle again, if I can quote Aerosmith.
You might have to pay money, but okay.
I don't know. I think fair use. But we are back here once again for another episode of Chasing Labels, and this is spine number 66. We're getting ever so close to 70, I guess.
I guess it's not nearly as demonic as 666. I mean, we got two sixes.
I guess.
Is there something wrong with two sixes?
Are we in two out of three?
Okay.
2 out of 3.
Okay. Well, maybe one day we'll get.
With 2/3 of the way to the devil.
Okay, well, I can't wait to get to that episode. if
Nice.
We'll be like 65. We'll be 66 when we get to that episode.
Oh, probably. Unless we do one every single day for the next 2 years.
Not gonna happen. But
no, I don't see that.
No.
The news comes fast, doesn't come that fast.
No. But as usual, we're back for another week of Blu-ray talk. See what the labels are talking about, and not a super heavy week, but some interesting things, some things that really surprised people, specifically from Criterion, and we'll get into that. So, as usual, where shall we begin?
Yes, we shall begin in a little off topic, little on topic. We're kind of bending the truth here a little bit. But there has been a kind of a big box set drop that I think is important to mention for the collector fans and for our fans and just, people who love movies in general. So Sony Pictures has their kind of indie imprint Sony Pictures Classics where they put out a lot more of like the art house films and foreign films and stuff like that. I know a lot of stuff from like Pedro Almodovar gets released through Sony Pictures Classics as well as, other people. I think some Richard Linklater stuff and whatnot, and a host of other things, stuff that you can really only find through them on Blu-ray, unfortunately, and both fortunately. But they're putting out a 30th anniversary collection that are all in 4K. It's an 11-disc box set, and it's supposed to come out November 22nd, so right in time for the holiday shopping season. And I guess this is the 30th anniversary of, I'm assuming, Sony Pictures Classics being a thing. That's my guess.
Yeah.
And we are getting just an eclectic group of films here, kind of starting like a greatest hits, kind of going from the beginning all the way up to the present. Some of these are going to be stuff that's already out on Blu-ray, and some of these are probably going to be things that are making their Blu-ray premieres. So I just want to go kind of run down, all of them here. You have a film called Orlando, The Celluloid Closet, The City of Lost Children, Run Lola Run, which has a Blu-ray release already. SLC Punk, I think, has a Blu-ray release already. I know Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon has a Blu-ray and 4K release already because I have both of them. And then The Devil's Backbone, which is the Guillermo del Toro film, which has a Blu-ray release through Criterion. So this will be a 4K upgrade. That's another kind of snipe on Criterion. Next is Volver, a Pedro Almodovar film, which I already have on Blu-ray actually. This Schenectady in New York, which is the film starring Philip Seymour Hoffman, which I think also has a Blu-ray release. And then there's Still Alice, the film starring Julianne Moore, which you won an Oscar for. Call Me by Your Name. So we've got an eclectic group of films here. And yeah, most of these are upgrades, really to 4K.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. It's also coming with a 24-page book as well. It's coming in a big box. An actual box.
Big box that folds from the sides. It looks like.
Oh yes, I did see that. It opens like a kind of like a flower.
Yeah,
and it looks like there's it looks like a digipack. There's a whole trailer for it. If people are interested, I would play it now, but I'm assuming it would screw with the technical stuff, and I won't be able to hear Steven talk to me about. Stuff.
Yeah. We don't want to start playing videos.
So I'm scrolling down here, and it looks like each film is getting a 4K restoration. Which is fascinating to me because some of these films are very, very new. Like Call Me by Your Name came out a few years ago?
Maybe like 4 years ago.
Yeah, so that must already look really, really good. Even Still Alice, I think, is from 2015, something like that. So a lot of these are, relatively new. They're all getting Dolby Vision and HDR presentations. They look like they're all coming with special features. That were on disc when they were originally released, things like audio commentaries and stuff like that. What interests me the most is The Devil's Backbone. I'm not sure if we're going to be getting the same special features that was on the Criterion. I'd have to actually go look at the Criterion, but there is 2 audio commentaries by Guillermo del Toro on here, and then some other featurettes and whatnot. It's just great to hear him talk about movies.
Oh yeah.
So this is a really cool box set. I know they had teased it a little bit earlier in the week, and people were kind of guessing, what would be in it. I saw a couple of lists, and I was like, oh, that would be really cool if some of these films made it on there. Someone thought about putting the film Pollock on there, and the movie Pollock starring, I think, Ed Harris is a film about I think Jackson Pollock. I don't even remember. Maybe it's not. It's a movie that came out in 2000. Yeah, it's a film, The Life and Career of American painter Jackson Pollock. This movie only has a DVD release and never has been released on Blu-ray, at least that I don't recall. So that would have been a cool kind of upgrade, but alas, we did not get that. But there is another Ed Harris sighting later on in some announcements, so he's always around.
Yeah.
Kind of a great, character actor of our time.
Yeah.
So, moving on from there. Oh yeah, you talk about.
Well, no,
what you're excited about.
The only thing I was going to say is another. I mean, there's a lot of obviously they could be making more of these, and one just random, Blu-ray release that I thought maybe could use is I believe Sony Picture Classics has, I think, maybe all the rights to the how's his last name pronounced? Greg Araki.
Greg Araki?
Yeah, I think Mysterious Skin was put out by Sony Picture Classics, and I think some of
that's a harsh movie.
Yeah, it is.
Very harsh movie.
It is, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, that movie came out on Blu-ray. I think a couple of 2014.
Yeah,
little do I know.
So I think a couple of his movies are through Sony Picture Classics and would be good upgrades too. I if they ever get around to doing another one.
Yeah, I would really like to. I mean, I think the Criterion Channel had a group of a collection of Greg Araki's films a while ago, to be available to watch. But I don't think his early stuff is available on Blu-ray really anywhere. I think Mysterious Skin is his earliest work.
Yeah.
Which, by early I mean 2004.
Yeah.
But he did stuff in the early 90s, which I thought was really, really good. And even, some of his more modern stuff, like Smiley Face, Nowhere, none of these have Blu-ray releases. Kaboom doesn't have a Blu-ray release. But Kaboom was streaming on Netflix for the longest time. That was a movie starring Thomas Dekker and, Juno Temple was in it. I remember that. Yeah, so I would love, you're right, I would love to see a Greg Araki collection.
Yeah, because, I mean, he's somebody that's really, he doesn't make tons of movies. He's become pretty influential in popular culture today with I think his influence on 13 Reasons Why. He did work on that show, I believe. And that show is very much in his style, very raw and transparent.
Yeah, his films are not for the faint of heart.
No, they're
Not
very.
they're not harsh. They feel very real in a certain way.
They feel really
especially
real.
Mysterious Skin.
They feel
is
really
harsh.
real in an uncomfortable way. Like they tell the truths of things that you don't really want to talk about. And
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did direct 4 episodes of 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're referring to. He also directed an episode of Riverdale, but that doesn't really say much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one doesn't really click with him.
Yeah,
as much.
I don't know if that's. Yeah, it is dealing with young people, but it's weird.
It's a weird show.
It is technically a comic book show.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of his early stuff like The Living End, is really good. So I would not mind that at all.
Yeah, he's
that
kind
would
of
be
a
nice box set.
he's kind of a director that is a kind of a tabooish director, but in a different way than other directors like somebody like a Lars von Trier or something like that. He's got a different approach than maybe.
I was thinking somebody else when it comes to him. I was thinking the director of Mommy. What's his name? Xavier Dolan. He and Xavier Dolan, I think, are similar in terms of their films have an interesting gritty vibe to them. That's another director whose work I would really love to see just more releases of. I don't think we have a Blu-ray release here of Mommy actually at all.
Yeah.
You have to import it from Canada, I think. I mean, I think he's a Canadian director, so that kind of makes a little bit of sense. But yeah, maybe there was a Blu-ray. Never mind, I lied.
Maybe not exactly but somebody like what is his name? Michael Haneke is somebody that's kind of close to like a Gregor Araki in a way, like.
Yeah, Michael Haneke, but he's making more adult films.
Yeah.
Like when I watch a Michael Haneke film, I'm like, that's an adult film in the sense like.
Yeah.
You feel like you have to be mature to watch a Michael Haneke film.
Yeah.
Like White Ribbon may go a little bit over your head if you don't.
Yeah, his are definitely more.
Even Amour is emotionally. His films are very emotionally tough to get through. Even Cachet is another movie. Probably needs a Blu-ray.
Yeah. They finally put out Time of the Wolf.
Yes.
Was just I'd pick that up, and that movie's great. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. We got some other stuff we got to get to. It was a bit of a leaner week, I guess, maybe because of the holiday, and then plus it was the first kind of full week of the month.
Yeah.
Maybe people are
there's
taking
few
their time.
trickles.
Few trickles here and there. One bombshell coming later on. We're gonna get to it, people. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. But moving on from there, Steven, where do you want to go?
Well, there's a Paramount Presents release of an Elvis film.
Which we don't talk about much.
Yeah. Elvis film called Blue Hawaii.
Blue Hawaii.
Our friend Justin Beam did some work on this, and is a big fan of Elvis. And I think me and Andrew are on the same page. We both are not like we'd never really delved into the filmography of Elvis, but apparently this is kind of a beloved one. So. From what I hear. So this is getting a 4K. So, if this is your first time watching an Elvis, this may be the place to start. I don't know.
Well, I believe, so Blue Hawaii, obviously one of his hits. It is 1961 to 2022, what's that, 51 years, I think?
I don't do
Steve,
math. I don't do math, man.
Do it. Oh.
You don't. No,
okay.
No.
Let me do it out loud.
It's actually more than that. It's 60 years.
Okay.
61 years.
So it is kind of like a 60-year anniversary of this movie, and it was one of his bigger hits at the time. I mean, everyone knows. Even if you don't listen to Elvis's music, chance you know who Elvis is. For the most part, I mean, we just had the Elvis movie done by Baz Luhrmann, which just came out a couple of months ago. I think that Blu-ray is coming out really, really soon.
It's already out on streaming, so.
Yeah, it's already out on streaming. I think it's on HBO Max now,
yep.
And available to buy and rent and all that good stuff. But I think people are, obviously when there's a biopic of someone, I think people all of a sudden There's like a revival of the person's things.
Usually,
like everyone
yeah.
gets reinterested or reintroduced to them.
I think it's
and
all
I think that
planned.
was with Elvis.
It's all planned through the. I mean, the companies know that the movie's coming out, so they kind of, I think, plan accordingly. They're like, well, people are going to be more interested in Elvis at that time after seeing that new Elvis biopic movie. So let's reintroduce some of his old classics back to the public and see if we can gain some revenue that way. Which is, it makes sense. I mean, it's not a anything that salacious or anything. It makes sense. You're exploiting the exposure that you're giving Elvis. So yeah, I mean,
Oh right, yeah. And yeah, I've seen a couple of Elvis's films. I've seen Jailhouse Rock. I haven't seen Blue Hawaii though, but I have seen like Tickle Me was another one. I think we had to cover that for some release from some company at one point. But he did, yeah. I mean, obviously he's known more so for his music than his acting ability, but his films were super popular at the time because he was a superstar at the time. So they kind of go hand in hand.
And I believe his acting career happened after he came back from serving in the war, I believe, too.
Yeah, yes, it did.
So obviously people really respected that probably, along with his music, and then he decided to become an actor, and it was like a big deal. It was like a big boom, having him.
Yeah, it was kind of and thing is, we see a lot of that throughout the history of movies and just entertainment in general, where musicians or singers, songwriters, or whatever will transition to acting. We see it all the time. Yeah. I mean, even in modern times, it happens literally all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like somebody like a Frank Sinatra,
Frank Sinatra did it, which is kind of a contemporary, a little bit at the time of Elvis, the 50s and 60s and whatnot. Modern times, you have Jennifer Lopez. It's a big name. You've got even someone. The thing is, I was going to say Jamie Foxx, but I can't remember if he started out in music and went acting. I want to say he was a
comedian first.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think he was an actor first and then did the music thing. More appropriate would be Will Smith. Will Smith did do music. Yeah, then transitioned to
there's
acting.
Also like 50 Cent, and if you want to count rappers like Eminem and
Eminem, Ice-T.
Yeah, a ton of them.
Ice Cube is another big one. He did it. Ludacris.
Yeah, Ludacris.
Fast and Furious. Tyrese.
Tons of people in the hip hop and rap. Beyonce. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah,
there's tons of hip hop rap genre. They've come over to acting. Yeah.
And then a lot of people, even in classic, classic movie world.
Well, country too, like Tim McGraw.
Tim McGraw's done some acting. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, even back in the day, you have like Bob Hope and people like that and whatnot. Doing the singing and the acting. Yeah. Some have success, some don't. Some are better than others.
Some decided they just wanted to stay on their lane. They just
very true. Yeah, some go back and forth. I mean, it's just some people are very talented.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and some people can pull it off. Some people can't.
Some people can't
do it. Some people can't.
Some people it didn't work out as well for them.
Cher did it. Bette Midler, Lady Gaga's doing it now. Barbara Streisand, big one. Yeah. I just googled.
Obviously you hit a gold mine.
Singers turned actors,
and that's called Google's.
Chris Christopherson, Dwight Yoakam, Madonna. The list goes on and on. I mean, we're getting a biopic about Weird Al that's coming out really, really soon with Daniel Radcliffe. But Weird Al really didn't do acting. But the thing is, though, his music videos are like him acting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're spoofs. They're satires. So there's some acting that goes into that. It happens. But Blue Hawaii, I know, because a couple of months ago, they screened the new 4K print for the TCM Film Festival. Back a couple of months ago, because I remember a lot of people on Twitter who were there were watching it, and they were having the Blue Hawaiian drink along with it, which is a cocktail that looks blue. That's called a Blue Hawaiian.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, so there's that. So this Paramount Pictures Paramount Presents line is still going. This is number 36.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're ever so surely.
I don't think they're moving as briskly as they were before, but they're still putting out some stuff.
Yeah, because they started doing this in 2019. and they're at 36 now. So it's not like they're doing one a month. They're doing like one every couple of months now,
Yeah.
it seems. I know they're coming out with War of the Worlds as well, which we covered, we talked about. A lot of people were upset about that because of the Criterion release that just came out, and now they gotta double dip if they want to, which is that's the curse of collecting movies.
That's
Curse of collecting.
yeah, really. I mean, you just got to be okay with what you have. If it's, like I've gotten closer to that. It depends. If there's something I really love, then maybe I'll buy multiple versions. But it's like at the point, it gets to a point now where there's so many different companies are putting out a region B or a region free, or that it's like you just got to be okay with what you've already bought. And as long as it's in good condition, then just be okay with it. Don't stress yourself out there about being upset that another edition's coming out and it's like, why didn't that one come first? It's got more features. Right. If you care that much, go for it, but don't stress yourself out, guys. It's just movies. No. It's just Blu-rays.
And for anyone interested in this is coming out November 16th. So we're hitting that time of year where things are coming out in November. If people can kind of compartmentalize that in their head, that the year is coming to an end relatively quickly. But yeah, this is Blue Hawaii. Came out in 1961 from Paramount. I'm excited about this. I'm glad that they're starting to do the 4K as opposed to just the Blu-ray releases, because they were giving these 4K restorations and remasters anyway. Just put it on the 4K disc. It just makes a whole lot more sense than giving us just the Blu-rays. If you're gonna pitch these as definitive versions of these movies, give us the best.
And when it's Paramount itself putting it out, it's like
it's also
it's
also
like
there's
a money to back it. It's not like it's
not only that, but these are also at premium prices, as it is. It's pre-ordering at $35, which is
that's pretty steep.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a lot of Paramount Presents releases go below 20 a lot. And there is, of course, the fold-out slipcover that people really like, where it kind of folds out vertically, no, horizontally, and you get like the movie poster.
Yeah, horizontal. I'm not a super fan of that. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, okay. It's got the little Velcro on it.
Yeah, nice. I just if you're gonna give me the poster like Arrow does it, or
I get you.
I don't care much for that. It's okay, but it's not. It's not a favorite of mine.
But that's Blue Hawaii, so we'll move on from there, and we're gonna go to
Kino.
We're gonna go to Kino or Eureka. Where do you want to go?
Kino. Let's get Kino done here.
Okay.
We got a few things from Kino.
Because Kino only had a couple of releases. We went over a bunch of them last week, and there's just a couple of them here. We have another Burt Reynolds film. They're putting on a couple of Burt Reynolds stuff lately, and this is Hustle. This is from a new 2022 HD master from a 2K scan from the 35mm inner positive, and this stars Burt Reynolds, Catherine Deneuve is in the film, Ben Johnson, Ernest Borgnine, Eileen Brennan is in the film. I haven't seen this one yet, but I'm really excited by it. This is also directed by Robert Aldrich. We may have talked about this before.
Maybe.
I feel like we brought up another Robert Aldrich film.
Yeah, but he tends to be like a Michael Curtiz, where he just kind of shows up.
Yeah,
his stuff is like everywhere, and you're like,
if we are going over the same thing again, it's no big surprise because Kino just throws the same things at us over and over again. You know what was directed by Robert Aldrich as well? That's probably why it's on the mind. Is another Burt Reynolds movie, The Longest Yard, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
That's why.
That same one we talked about. You were talking about last week is another. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking double the Aldrich, double the Burt Reynolds,
these movies were
double the 70s.
And these movies were directed back to back years, so that's why.
There you go. Burt Reynolds was a rising star in the 70s, not a big surprise. But something that got a bit of a buzz this week, I know people were talking about it, is actually a Stephen King adaptation, which I did not realize until I was actually watching it, and that is the 1993 film Needful Things, starring Ed Harris, Max von Sydow, Bonnie Bedelia, and this is based off of the novel by Stephen King. It's good. I kind of liked it. I kind of wish there was a little bit more to the film, because there's that usual that Stephen King world building wasn't quite in there as much as I wanted it to be. Apparently, this is also coming with theatrical cut. as well as the television cut. I'm assuming the television cut must be longer.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to know if it's a television cut. Then
I'm hoping it's longer.
It's got cut commercials probably. So maybe it's a shorter cut.
I hope not. That would stink because I don't think the movie needed to be shorter. If anything, it could have been a little longer, and I thought that would have been a little bit better. So this film is set in Castle Rock, which is a famous setting in a lot of Stephen King's novels. It's basically what steps in for a small town in New England or Maine, because that's where Stephen King is from. So that would make a lot of sense. But it's set in, like I said, it's set in Castle Rock, which should tip you off it's a Stephen King thing. So there's this guy who comes in and starts running a shop, and his name is Leland Gaunt. He's portrayed by Max von Sydow, and he's selling things. And he basically sells anything that people desire, any item that people desire. But there's a catch to it. You don't really have to pay in money, but you got to pay in a different way. And usually that means you got to do a favor for him. That's a mischievous favor. And basically you're kind of signing over your soul to him as well. So you're kind of getting what I'm saying here. This man is kind of a demon. He may be the devil. You really don't quite know. But Max von Sydow kind of plays him very slimy, very sinewy.
Yeah.
And just, he's manipulating the townsfolk into doing things to inflict violence and hurt the other people around them. But the thing is, he's manipulating it to the point where he's having everyone blame a different person so that then they're going to want revenge on that other person. He's basically sowing chaos.
Yeah.
And Ed Harris plays a sheriff who is trying to figure this all out and then eventually try to stop him and, stop this town from destroying itself. That is basically the movie, and I dug it. I thought it was entertaining.
I was gonna say this sounds like one that I'm guessing will be remade at some point soon, because it seems
I have no doubt.
Seems ripe for a remake. And yeah, it's got a great cast. Also, J.T. Walsh in there is another actor I really like.
Yes. He plays a shitty mayor.
Oh, that's exactly what I would expect from him is to play a shitty mayor.
He's a shitty mayor with a gambling debt. Don S. Davis is in the movie.
I was going to say, Don S. Davis is here.
He was in Twin Peaks really right before this came out, because Twin Peaks went from 1990 to 1991. He was also in Stargate SG-1 later on, the long-running sci-fi series. He passed away a few years ago, but I remember him being in both of those things that I watched a lot when I was younger. So it's like I said, here's the Ed Harris that I was talking about from earlier. Also, Amanda Plummer is in the movie, and people may know Amanda Plummer as Honey Bunny from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
That's where I know her from. I've been thinking a lot about Pulp Fiction recently, and I don't know why.
Weird.
Maybe it's because I rewatched Glorious Bastards recently, so maybe Quentin Tarantino's been on my mind and whatnot.
Were you watching the 4K?
I did watch the 4K.
Look good.
I did rewatch it in 4K. The movie is still so damn good.
It's so good. It's still my favorite Tarantino.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
I don't blame you for saying that, because it is that good of a movie. It's so tight and so good. The acting by Christoph Waltz is so great.
Fassbender and his scenes.
Yeah, Fassbender's in that scene in the underground bar and whatnot. It's just such a tight movie. It's historical fiction come to life. That's really what it is.
Historical fiction fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of what Tarantino likes to
always
do.
done.
That really defines him for a bit. But Amanda Plummer, she was also in The Fisher King, which is another great film. That's a Terry Gilliam film that I think needs more love. Has a Criterion Blu-ray release.
Robin Williams,
Robin Williams is incredible in that movie. The late, who's it? Is it William Hurt? No, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges is in there. He didn't die yet.
No.
Fortunately.
He did have cancer. He did have cancer, though. Yeah, I remember he was going through treatments and whatnot for that.
But I can confirm the TV cut is 3 hours and 3 minutes long.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you looked that up, because I was trying to look it up and I got distracted by Needful Things.
It should be longer. So that'll be cool you could watch a longer version.
I did hear that I did look up. I think the book is like 700 pages long.
Jesus.
So, kind of trying to reduce that into a 2-hour movie seemed a bit tough.
Now that you tell me that, I kind kind of want to read the book, like because of the subject matter. It just seems like something that's cooped up in one town. Seems like it would be interesting. You learn about all these characters, and then they get all twisted around by some devil kind of character. Seems like something I'd be into. And I just fun fact on the side, we decided to visit our local library for the first time since moving to this area, and it was fun. It was fun going into a library and experiencing that again for the first time in a long time, and it just brings back memories. And maybe that'll be a first book I go and get and check it out. Needful Things.
Yeah, I haven't been to a library, I think, since college.
Yeah.
I do have a library card, which I do advise people to take out a library to get a library card. One, because it's free.
Yeah, we got one. We got one.
Yeah, it's free, and you can actually do it without even going to a library. I didn't. I did it over like online. You just have to fill stuff, paperwork out and all this stuff. But the thing with that is it does gain you access to audiobooks, ebooks, but it also gains you access to streaming things like Canopy and Hoopla.
Yeah.
Your library may be part of that. I know my library is part of Canopy, so even for this week, I was able to watch a few things on Canopy, and you're surprised what you'll find on there. You really will.
Yeah, and also what I
it helps out.
Yeah, what I also recognize too is that a lot of the libraries now, at least the one that we have, has like an app, so where you can look through the library's inventory without even coming to the library and
that's cool.
know whether they have something, and then you can come get it.
Yeah, so you don't have to go there and
search.
Well, the fun is browsing.
There is fun in browsing,
yeah.
But if you're looking for a specific thing that
Right.
you want, and then you don't have to just go there and find out that they don't have it. You could look on there and be like, oh shit, they got it. They got it. Let's go to the library and pick it up. So
yeah, one thing that does confuse me a bit, and I don't know if I think I've talked about this for years with other people, is that the ebooks and the audiobooks, they only have a certain amount of copies available for you to be able to take out. And I just found that odd because ebooks, there's no physical
part
copy,
of
so
it,
it's not like, hey, we have 10 copies at this library, and then 10 people took them out. No, we got none. It's like an ebook is just a file. Audiobooks are just files.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a whole licensing thing. They're only allowed, in quotes, to
share it once.
To share 3. They're only allowed to have 3 audiobook copies or 3 ebook copies. Or
probably.
Whatnot.
It's probably
and it's it's really annoying because you can. These are just files. They're not actual physical things.
Yeah.
But that's more of a book podcast than it is a movie podcast. But books and movies go hand in hand to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the movies that come out are book adaptations in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Whether it be comic books, novels, autobiographies, fiction, nonfiction, whatever. That seems to be the case these days. So, and Stephen King is probably one of the more notorious authors to have his stuff put out multiple times.
Probably the most prolific author to ever have his stuff adapted to film.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, I think it was on TikTok the other day. I think he and George R.R. Martin were talking somewhere, and then George R.R. Martin asked him, how do you put out so many books all the time? Because if you notice, Stephen King's putting out one book every couple of months pretty much.
Jesus.
And George R.R. Martin is notorious for taking nearly a decade now to put out another book. So it's how do you do it? And I think Stephen King was every single day his goal is to write at least 6 pages of a book.
Well, I think and I haven't really read a lot of Stephen King books, but at this point I think he just looks at it and he's like, I'm printing money.
Oh yeah.
He's like, if I put out something, whether it's good or not,
joke somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think the editors at whatever publishing house that he uses or goes to really edits his stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just you're Stephen King. We're gonna put it out.
They know
anyway.
if they put
What's
it out,
the
they're
point?
gonna make money.
They're not gonna send him notes hey,
Yeah.
trim this. Hey, take this out. Hey, this doesn't work, or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do that by this point. Maybe they do. I doubt it.
Doubt it.
Maybe that's why his stuff comes out so soon, because it doesn't have to go through rounds and rounds of, coming back from the editors or the publishers and being take this stuff out. But that's Needful Things, so definitely check that out if you can. I do recommend it. It's a fun little creepy Stephen King story, appropriate for this time of year, because we're getting close to that Halloween season, or whatever people like. It's always Halloween season in your heart if you have it.
Yes.
But moving on from there, we got more Kino on the horizon. We have the Valakai Papers, starring Charles Bronson. Another Charles Bronson Kino release, or re-release in this case, because I think the Valakai Papers may have had a Twilight Time release.
Might have been an imprint.
Years ago.
Might have been an imprint release.
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Maybe.
Yes, yeah, they did put one out. No, it was Indicator put it out.
That's what I thought I said. Did I say imprint?
No, you said imprint.
I meant Indicator.
You did what I do.
Yeah.
I get imprint and Indicator confused.
That's what I
because they got
actually
the
meant to
eyes.
say was Indicator. I said it. I saw Indicator in my mind, and I said imprint.
Yeah, it's that pronunciation.
Yeah.
It's the I,
Yeah.
and then you like in or im. In or
Print's
im.
shorter, so I said print.
Yeah, and it just. Yeah,
But yeah, I meant to
this
say
happens me all
Indicator.
the
I remember
time.
Indicator coming out with some Bronson, and I was sure that it was. I think it was this movie. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
the Valakai Papers did have an Indicator release in January of 2021. But I know here I thought, yeah, it was 2017. Twilight Time put it out.
Okay.
So that's what we have here. I'm not sure when it comes to special features what the difference will be between the Indicator and the the Indicator and the Kino release. I'm assuming there's going to be a difference because their Indicator seems to get a lot of original stuff. Because this is only coming really with an audio commentary and then like some theatrical trailers and a TV spot and a radio spot. That is it. So I'm assuming, the Indicator release has those trailers and radio spot as well as archival footage of the Valakai hearings, that commentary. They have a few other features on here as well. So much more extensive package here in terms of Blu-ray. But if you can't get the Indicator release for whatever reason, you have Kino as a backup option, maybe a cheaper option for all we know. But yet again, it's another Charles Bronson film, so I'll always take a flyer on a Charles Bronson film.
All right. I think we got one more here because I believe
Yes.
we've talked about Bedtime
We've
for
talked about this
Bonzo.
before, and there actually is another one after that just got dropped a few hours ago. But we'll get to it. But yeah, so they did tell us when Bedtime for Bonzo is getting an all-important Blu-ray release, November 8th. This is the Ronald Reagan, Diana Lynn starring film with a monkey. And a monkey named Bonzo, of all things. This is a film, 1951. I think a lot of people know this. We talked about it before. Ronald Reagan and a monkey, and this is that movie. It is getting a brand new 2K master, new audio commentary by not Eddie Muller, but Eddie Von Muller. Different person, I assume. So, yeah, that is Bedtime for Bonzo. And then after that is another film that dropped that they announced a few hours ago. And this is Luc Besson Presents Kamikaze from 1986. I know nothing about this movie.
Yeah.
Other than it is a 1980s movie, and it very much looks like it. I think it's a Japanese film. Because I'm looking at the poster here, and I
It's
think
got
that's
Japanese writing, but
on
I don't
it.
know that it's a Japanese
Yeah.
film or not. Yeah.
Well, because kamikaze is a Japanese.
Well, yeah, but
It's that's a Japanese term. Like it's from, Japan. That's why I kind of assume. But yeah, I don't know anything about this movie. They don't even list a description here, really. No.
it's an American film, or at least a British film.
It's co-written and co-produced by Luc Besson. If that does anything for anyone.
It says it's a French film.
Oh.
It's from France of origin. So
Did you look up the IMDb
yes.
on it? Okay. Yeah.
And
that
it's
makes sense.
in French, so it's a French film. So yeah, I mean
I was
it's
way off.
it's a sci-fi thriller. Crazy old and bored scientist invents a system which allows him to reach through the airwaves and transform live TV cameras into weapons to kill whoever is being filmed.
That sounds very dystopian and very, very 1980s concept.
It
I don't
seems
know
like
why.
he's trying to do his own like David Cronenberg-esque type of thing, like a Videodrome type of thing, or without the sexual elements.
kind of a social commentary on technology being the worst enemy.
Existence, without the sexual stuff.
Yes.
Or who's the
maybe it does. Who knows? We haven't seen the movie.
No. What's the director? Recent director. He did like Chappie.
Oh, you're talking about. Oh yeah, he also did District 9.
Yeah. Neil Blomkamp.
Leo Blomkamp. Yes.
Kind of has a little bit of that with Chappie. Some of that.
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp. His films had a lot of social commentary in them.
Yeah, social commentary, but also kind of a mix with like tech, like people in tech. That kind of relationship.
Like Elysium.
Yeah.
Yeah, District 9, Elysium, Chappie. I didn't see his newest film that came out last year.
I saw the shorts. I saw the shorts. A lot of the shorts he did, and the thing
God
that came
City,
out on
Conviction,
the Netflix
Lima.
thing. There's some interesting ones on there.
Remember when? Yeah, he was supposed to do a lot of films that just kind of never panned out.
Yeah, he was supposed to do the Alien.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but he was gonna do a Halo movie years ago.
Yeah.
And it just never panned out. And then the Alien thing never panned out because Ridley Scott wanted to do Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And then I know Ridley Scott wants to do another film to kind of end that his storyline there. Whether it ever happens, I'm not quite sure.
Who knows, man?
Really
it's
sure.
a Disney hands now.
It is. Yeah, 20th Century Fox is in Disney hands now, so who really knows if that's going to happen or if they're going to
turn it into a
the
show
Alien franchise. I don't. Well, there is supposed to be. There's supposed to be an Alien show coming out right now, actually, with I think Ridley Scott. I don't know if he's attached to it, if he's like an executive producer or something. But I know that's supposed to be coming. Yeah, it's just called Alien, and he is an executive producer on it. It's supposed to come out relatively soon. Yeah, Juno Temple's in it. John Hamm.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be
Jennifer
set around
Jason
the
Leigh.
corporation on Earth.
Yes, that's what it is.
Which is an interesting concept. It gets you a little bit away from the standard, the alien, a group of people going to a planet they shouldn't be going to and then getting attacked by aliens. Takes you a little away from that, and I guess would assume just be more of like about corruption, but
But there's got to be something in there too.
I would assume aliens have to come back into play at some point.
Something like that. It's some seeds or something placed in there just to get people interested. Instead, the name itself already gets people interested, but you got to put some Easter eggs.
There has to be some extraterrestrial something in this for it to really feel like it's connected to aliens. But we'll see.
I know Noah Hawley, I think, is behind it as well.
Okay.
Who has done a lot of great work at FX. He did Legion. He did a bunch of great things over there. I think, didn't he do the Fargo series?
Yes,
as well.
He did.
Yeah, because that's also getting another season, I think, coming up. Maybe a final one. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the most recent one. The one with Chris Rock in it.
They keep doing Fargo seasons, but they gave up on True Detective, basically. They
did do a True Detective season 3.
Yeah,
right?
The one with
with the
what's his Mahershala Lily.
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. But it's like that's been a couple years now, hasn't it?
What's crazy, it does feel like it's been a long
couple,
time.
At least a couple years.
It does feel like, in 2019. Damn.
Yeah, so it's like they kind of,
and
it took them a while to go from season 2 to season 3.
Well, because season 2 was such a diverge from season 1. When that dropped in 2014, I think, people, that was the greatest thing people had ever seen on television at that time. People lost their mind over that.
That season's an amazing season of television.
That is an amazing season of television, and it's people have gone back and rewatched it, but that second season, it diverged completely different from the first one, which that's kind of what an anthology series is, really.
Which I love. I love the idea. They just haven't seemed to be able to match the writing.
No, the first season was such magic.
Yeah.
You had
and
everything
probably
going.
Just the combination of actors and of course McConaughey being where he was in his career, kind of making a resurgence as more than being a heartthrob, but being an actor, and losing that weight and just being just so different in that than anything he's ever done, that it really took the forefront of that season. But really, I mean, it's just the story was better, but they got great actors for the other 2 seasons too, and it just never.
Oh yeah, Colin Farrell,
Vince Vaughn,
Rachel McAdams, Vince Vaughn, Taylor Kitsch. I thought was
Taylor
great.
Kitsch.
The acting in the third season I thought was great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but like the whole mystery behind it, the setup was better than the payoff.
Yeah.
I will say the payoff was a little anticlimactic. It wasn't as good as I think the build up to it was, and that kind of sours that season a little bit, but it doesn't take away from Mahershala Ali being fantastic.
Yeah.
Stephen Dorff being amazing in it. Doesn't really take away those things. But yeah, that first season was pure magic at that time.
But back on subject.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got to.
We're going down
Noah
right.
Hawley,
you talked about FX, and then
I got to Noah Hawley, and I talked about Fargo, and then you jumped to True Detective, because that Fargo first season, similar to True Detective, really fantastic.
Yeah,
like exceptionally great. We talk so much about TV sometimes. It's almost as if we should have a side.
It's in like a big golden.
Podcast.
We're like in the massive golden age of TV now. Like,
it's never. You can't keep up with all of it. It's never ending.
But I mean, there's so much. But I mean, there is a lot of crap. But like, there's a lot of like just amazing things being made because the budgets are growing on TV and better actors are going to TV and better writers and.
Oh yeah. The world of entertainment, visual entertainment, is massively shifting, in so many different ways, in so many different forms. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but that's why it just puzzles me recently. I know, obviously, in the future, if people listening to this podcast, I don't think people will understand what HBO and Warner Brothers is doing right now. Well, not HBO, what Warner Brothers is doing right now in terms of, like, reducing their output when it comes to their streaming, which is basically streaming and TV are kind of one and the same right now. So if you're reducing your streaming stuff, you're taking away from your quote-unquote TV stuff, and that's the market right now. That's where things are at. You got to be in that game. If you're not in that game, you're just not going to survive, really. That's why it's an interesting saving money strategy to take away what everyone else is doing, and like kind of removing yourself from that competition.
Well,
that's an interesting strategy.
It's an interesting strategy.
See if it pays off, Colin.
But to be honest, I don't know all that. I don't know all the details. I don't know all where streaming makes their money when they're doing their business. Other than
that's another thing. I have no idea how.
Yeah, I know they make money on getting subscribers and maybe some ad revenue, but really, what are you making your money off of if you're just going to keep pumping out a show after every week and do the throw it against the wall method, which is what Netflix does?
Well, I think that going back to what I was just saying, I think that's where Warner Brothers sunk their own ship, is putting so much money into the streaming to launch HBO Max, to launch that platform and have the foundation of shows and things like that and content to put on there. That's how they're so far in debt that now they have to scale things back. But unfortunately, scaling things back, hurts yourself when you're competing with Netflix, with Disney Plus, with Paramount Plus, with Peacock, with whomever else.
So you're basically saying
Amazon.
Once you're in, you're like kind of stuck. And
you got to stay in, no matter how big you dig that hole of debt.
Yeah, I mean it's sad
because to dig yourself out means you're gonna fall so far behind.
Yeah, there's like everybody that got into the streaming game so quickly, and what they did, like they've put themselves in a hole now that they really can't get out of, and it's like
to get out is not.
They're basically gonna keep hitting losses. Because
you're gonna lose. You're in a lose-lose scenario.
There's too much competition, unfortunately. But all right.
But moving on but we are kind of done with Kino. Now we're moving on to a couple of slates we have, right?
Well, let's start.
Or do you want to hit the big one?
We'll leave the big one for last. We'll leave that last big thing for last, and then so let's go to Eureka.
Ah, yes, Eureka. So Eureka has two releases for their November slate. Eureka's a little smaller these days in terms of what they're putting out each month. But we've got two releases here. One is fascinating to me because I did actually get to watch this. Coincidentally, I watched it on Canopy through my library. And that is an 1980s Hungarian animated film, and that is The Son of the White Mare. Um, and then the next film is what's it? It's The Dead and the Deadly, which is another Golden Harvest film that came out in 1981, 1982, I believe. Both of these are early 80s films. But the one that's a really big highlight for me is The Son of the White Mare. This is a stunningly gorgeous movie. It's an animated film based off of like a folk tale, a fairy tale from Hungarian culture. It's it is a I can't even explain this to people. It is kind of like The Last Unicorn meets heavy metal in terms of its animation approach. It's what a gorgeous artistic film. One of the more stunning animated films I've ever seen. It's about these mythic folk heroes, Tree Shaker, Stone Crumbler, and Iron Temperer. And they descend into this underworld to fight this dragon and save these three princesses. But there's a whole like backstory behind it before any of that even occurs. It starts off with this white mare giving birth to one of these heroes, and you get a whole backstory of this world and the way it is, and the way it's done with this beautiful animation. It's kind of really tough to describe, other than you kind of have to see it for yourself. This is from a 2019 4K restoration that was supervised by the director Marcel Yankovic, and this also includes, I think, another animated feature as well. His premiere animated feature in Johnny Corncob. Not the funniest title I've ever heard, but pretty funny.
Not quite Jimmy Crack Corn, but you know,
not quite the Son of the White Mare, which is a lot cooler. And yeah, the first 2,000 copies of these will have a slipcover. This comes out November 14th. There is a trailer for this that you can watch on YouTube. I highly recommend watching it just to give you a sense of what it looks like, and all of that. But the next film is The Dead and the Deadly, and this is, like I said, a Golden Harvest film starring Sammo Hung, who, of course, was in a bunch of Golden Harvest films that we've talked about and that we haven't talked about, and he was a fight choreographer, an actor, and producer, and all of these things, and martial artist and whatnot. And it's kind of like I think it's like a horror comedy. I didn't get to see it because I couldn't really find it. But it is getting a 2K restoration. It's available November 21st. There will be a slipcase in the first 2,000 copies, as well as a collector's booklet, I think, for both of these, I hope. But yeah, that's both of these. Steven, have you heard of any of these or anything like that?
Yeah, Son of the White Mare. I've definitely heard of it, but I've never seen it. Anime is kind of something I've never really gotten around to too much, except for like, certain American stuff, and then like the Hayao Miyazaki stuff.
When I first heard of this, I thought it was a Japanese anime.
Yeah, but
it's Hungarian.
Yeah,
and it doesn't even. It's so interesting because it doesn't really feel like a Japanese anime.
Yeah, but
it has the same level of, I think, gravitas to it, the same level of beauty in its presentation and its artistic style, but it looks completely different than a Hayao Miyazaki film, or a Studio Ghibli film, or really any kind of Japanese animation. It's so artistically done. This is definitely a release that I would really want. I was surprised when I went on to Letterboxd at how many people had seen this movie. Apparently, it's very well known. I had never heard of it until it was announced.
Yeah, I've definitely feel like I've seen this image of this pink unicorn on the front. Like I feel like I've heard of it. I've even heard the title talked about, but I've never seen it. I'm definitely interested. I've gotten more into anime the older I've gotten, in just in the sense of just like the stuff that's more about like, has allegories for real life things and not just like for kids.
There's a lot of great animation out there that isn't specifically, it is centered towards children, but it's also for adults as well.
Yeah.
A lot of, I mean, anime is massive. I think anime in general right now is, Japanese anime is more massive now than it's ever been before. When it comes to its popularity, I mean, there's whole conventions dedicated to anime and
Oh
stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And of course, manga is huge now. I mean, I was at a store, um, like a week or two ago, and they just had like half a good part of the store was just all manga stuff. It was just all manga, and more so than comic books, like American comic books. They had way more manga than that. And I was just like, yeah, this is really popular right now, and for a good reason because the quality is so good, stories are good, people really dig it. But this is different because, like I said, it is Hungarian animation, which you don't really get a lot of. Really kind of European animation you don't get a lot of in general. Even Eastern European animation, is something also kind of unique about this release as well. Yeah, this is part of their Masters of Cinema series as well. If that is familiar to anyone, good to point out. But yeah, it's a fantasy epic, kaleidoscope medley of groundbreaking animation. That's how they describe it here, and it does feel like a kaleidoscope. That's actually the best way I can describe the animation style. So that's Eureka. I'm excited about that. But moving on to another slate here is completely on the other side of the world is Umbrella. Steven, we got a few here. Do you want to go through these?
Sure. So we have the horror movie, I believe, from the early 2000s, Wrong Turn.
Yep.
Then we have from 1999, we have the film The Limey. And then we have one of their Ozploitation films from their Ozploitation line. We have it's two films. We have Night of Fear, and then we also have a film called Inn of the Damned. And then we have the film, I believe, from the director.
It's Inarritu.
Inarritu, yes. We have Almost Paros. I believe I have that one. That's a Criterion, right? Criterion.
Yeah, there's a Criterion of that.
Yes. And then we also have the 1988 film Young Guns, which is I love that film. And am I missing another one?
No, it was only 5.
Okay.
It was only 5 Blu-rays.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I've seen Wrong Turn. It's kind of one of them kind of big kind of movie. Horror when horror was kind of making its renaissance in the 2000s, where you had things like the remakes of like Hills Have Eyes and stuff like that. Like this was another one of them movies that popped up.
You and I are on the same mindset because that's exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
I think I brought up like the 2000s had a kick when it came to horror, like classic horror movie
Hostel
remakes.
came out
and then but it also had a kick of like cannibal movies.
Yeah,
I guess. I can't. There's no real way to say it. Like these weird, freaky backwoods,
backwoods movies,
cannibal type movies where you had, like you were just saying, you had the remake of Hills Have Eyes. You had things like House of a Thousand Corpses.
You could even throw like Jeepers Creepers in there. It's kind of like
even throw that in there if you want to. And then you had, like I said last. You had Texas Chainsaw had
the
a remake as well as a prequel to that remake. So you had these things where I don't know if cannibalism was a popular horror subgenre back in the 2000s, but we lived through it.
Yeah.
And I don't remember even Wrong Turn coming out. I mean, when this movie came out, I was 16.
Yeah.
So I would not have watched it.
I believe I watched it at some point a little bit later, maybe a few years later.
It felt like a movie I would have rented years later and watched it then, maybe, or something like that. But I did watch it for the show, and it feels like an early 2000s horror movie. I mean, you've got the cast, although there's a couple of people in there that you will find familiar. Eliza Dushku, I think, is kind of the bigger one. At the time, I think she was coming off of being in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She was in the spin-off show Angel. She was in Bring It On. She was in Bring It On. She was in The New Guy with DJ Qualls.
Yeah.
And it was Eddie Griffin. No, not Eddie Griffin. I forgot who was in that movie. And she was in that show True Calling as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So So the new guy had Zoe Deschanel. Eddie. It was Eddie Griffin. I was right. Yeah. Yeah. Tony Hawk was in it for like a couple of scenes as a cameo. I remember that. Somebody broke like a skateboard over his head.
Jeez.
I watched the new guy I remember watching the new guy in theaters. That's how long ago.
Damn.
That was a damn.
Damn,
Was
you're
it
old.
2000?
Damn, you're old.
Damn. Well, I think Bring It On I saw it in theaters as well, and that was also around 2000. So
Jesus.
there you go. So Eliza Dushku, she was in all of that. She's going on to be in other things as well. She's actually local here. She's from Boston, I think. She was in Dollhouse. She was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back in 2001. She's still acting to this day. She's kind of been one of my all-time, kind of favorites on screen and whatnot. Solid actress. But she was in this film. Another actor who may look familiar to you, Stephen, Desmond Harrington. Desmond Harrington was in a show that you've talked about a few times with me, Dexter.
I don't know what that show is. No,
you don't know what that show is? He played Joseph Quinn,
yes.
Detective Joseph Quinn in later seasons. That's why he looks so familiar.
Yes.
He's also still acting to this day, television acting and whatnot. He was on that show Elementary, Manhunt. He was even in that show Limitless for a couple of episodes, the one that was based off of the movie. But I remember him specifically in Dexter for the last couple of seasons. He's in it, and basically this is kind of like your generic people get lost in the woods, and there are cannibal, freakish backwoods people trying to chase them and kill them and turn them into food.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is kind of the movie. It did get a couple of sequels, if I remember.
It's one of them
2
franchises
and
that
3.
got sequels it didn't need.
Those may have been, I think those may have been like direct to DVD sequels.
Yeah.
There was a Wrong Turn 2, 3, and 4. I don't know if there was any more past that. You'll get there's a Wrong Turn 5
didn't they
and
remake
6.
it?
Oh, and there was a remake.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was recent.
My goodness. Yeah, there was a remake last year. Matthew Modine was in it. Okay.
It was actually I remember watching it thinking it wasn't that bad, but
I didn't know that you had seen it.
Yeah. I don't think it was that bad. I think I remember being like, well, this was not the worst remake. It's a little different. Yeah. It's a little dark. It's a little darker than the original, but yeah.
The concept is not exactly unique. You know what I mean?
No.
You can remake it, and you're not like it's not sacrilege to remake something like that. Because the premise has been done a few times. So yeah, it's a fun, probably cult early 2000s horror film. But what else was in there? Oh, The Limey. Okay, so here we go. This is Steven Soderbergh's film from 1999 starring Terrence Stamp. Now, The Limey has a couple of Blu-ray releases. I posted this in our Facebook group, Chasing Labels, so that people don't get goofed around by it. So The Limey is coming out in 4K here in the United States on October 11th as a Best Buy exclusive Steelbook edition put out by Lionsgate. Now, chances are Lionsgate may put out that in regular packaging later on, but there is a 4K that's being released here. So if you don't want to get this release, you're not going to miss out on the movie. If anything, you'll probably get one in better condition here. There is a 4K that came out in France last year, but I wasn't sure when it came when it was how the quality of that was. And if it came with actually English subtitles and stuff like that. Sometimes those French releases are only in French with French subtitles, which I guess doesn't help people who don't speak French, So
sure.
So be wary that this is coming here, so you don't have to jump the gun when it comes to this release. But it's just great to see this movie get another Blu-ray release somewhere, because I think it's kind of an underrated, Steven Soderbergh film. It came out right before he did his more well-known films and things like Traffic and Aaron Brockovich, the movie he did with what's her name,
Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts, America's Sweetheart, and
that's another movie.
No, it is America's Sweethearts is another movie.
That's got Catherine Zeta-Jones in it.
Yeah, but I was talking about Julia Roberts is kind of
I
considered
know what you
America's
meant.
sweetheart. You know what I meant.
I'm
You know
just
what I
fucking
meant.
with you.
I did see. I think I did. I see America's Sweethearts. I don't
That's
even
got what,
remember.
Hugh Grant in it too. Is it Hugh Grant and Catherine
You
Zeta-Jones?
talking about America's Sweethearts?
Yeah. And then
Can't
who's in that
remember.
movie?
Why am I thinking of Catherine Zeta-Jones and um uh and what's his name? George Clooney. I don't know why. That's a different. That's a different movie.
That is a different movie, I think, but I don't think that's.
I think that's Intolerable Cruelty, the Coen Brothers movie that no one
I think
talks
that's
about.
it. Yeah, but I think Hugh Grant's the male lead in.
Yes, this is the Hugh Grant movie.
Yeah.
Not Hugh Grant. John Cusack.
Oh wow, they look.
Yeah,
You know,
we're way
that I
off.
think about it, they look kind of similar, in a way.
No, really.
No, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, Julia Roberts.
I was trying to
John
make. I was trying to
Cusack.
make myself give myself
Yeah,
an
I know
excuse.
you were trying to save yourself, but I don't think that was. Julia Roberts, John Cusack, Billy Crystal, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Hank Azaria, Stanley Tucci, Christopher Walken.
That's a great
Alan
cast.
Arkin. Who's not in this movie?
I know.
God damn.
Wait, I think people need to rediscover American Sweethearts.
I think they do. I think they do. A movie publicist deals with the messy public split of his movie co-stars while keeping reports at bay while a reclusive director holds the film's prints hostage.
Okay, this sounds like a movie that needs to be rediscovered.
I feel... I was trying to look it up to see if it had a Blu-ray release, but I couldn't tell.
I had the VHS at some point, but
I remember seeing this on, like, HBO.
yeah,
back
I've
in
seen the
early
movie. It's just
2000s.
been so long. I don't
Yeah,
even.
America's Sweethearts does not have a Blu-ray release here, but it has one in Germany and it has one in Italy. And they both came out in 2010 and 2011, respectively. Damn, that's a while ago. I feel like America's Sweethearts needs a Bluray release. I don't know why.
Just because
I don't know why.
we're building it up because
Because
of
we're
the
talking
cast.
about it. I think that's why. I have a feeling like this is this would be a great, like, cheaper Blu-ray release by someone. Like a $10 to $15 release, I feel.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's got a great cast. I mean, I feel like even if it isn't that great of a movie,
Yeah, even if it's like if you're on Letterboxd, maybe a 3.5 star movie, it's still worth a watch.
and maybe
Yeah.
but maybe it's better than it was initially, put out at. Like people pooped on it at first, but
Discovered, yeah.
but maybe it's actually pretty good. Like we just got to go back and watch it.
Yeah, so, back on track. So the Limey is getting a 4K release here in literally less than a month. So, well, actually, about a month from now. So hold off on that if you, of course, want it. I mean, I've got to upgrade my DVD because I can't look at it anymore on the shelf. But that's just me. But moving on, we have, like I said, there's a double vision here of Night of Fear and Inn of the Damned. So Night of Fear is a 55-minute film. These are both directed by the same guy. I think Terry Burke is the director. Both exploitation stuff from the early to mid-70s. And Night of Fear, in keeping in line with Wrong Turn, is similar thematic-wise and plot-wise, really. This young woman gets in a car accident in the woods, and she gets kind of harassed and captured by a backwoods, backwoods type person who is into murder and cannibalism and stuff like that. It's kind of similar.
Got to have a hobby, I guess.
Yeah, I guess nothing else to do out there. But the movie, what's unique about this movie, like I said, 55 minutes long, but it's done in a very surreal style, and it's done almost not entirely, but there's hardly any dialogue, and it's just like almost visual montages at times, and it feels very artsy in that way. So there'll be a sequence where she's having a nightmare, and they'll just kind of flash different clips of things that she's thinking about in her head that are horrific scenarios and stuff. It'll kind of like a subliminal messaging type of function of film presentation. Really interesting work, and it feels very atmospherically dreadful the whole time, and it's done in such a low budget that it feels grimy. You feel like you're in the woods in a real place because it's so low budget. Inn of the Damned is different, and the movie's just way too long. It's a 2-hour film, about 118 minutes, and I found it to be slow and kind of boring, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So it's set in 1896 in kind of the Australian West, if you will, and there's this inn. that people check in and they don't check out. Kind of like the Eagles song Hotel California. I guess it's the Hotel California of the Australian West. You get in, but you can't get out. Lo and behold, there's a reason why people are checking in, and the people who run the inn are killing them. That's kind of the thing. And then there's this lawman who's trying to kind of figure this whole thing out. But he's also has this other plot line that he's dealing with as well. I just thought it was a really kind of slower film just to get to a rather obvious point. There's the whole reason why they're doing it, and you get kind of clips of backstory as to why they're doing what they're doing and all this kind of stuff. But I thought it was kind of boring. That's just me. I like the title though, Inn of the Damned, appropriately so.
All right.
And I don't know. Have you seen Amores Perros, Stephen?
I don't.
You said you haven't.
No, I said I said it's on Criterion. I don't.
Oh,
I
thought you said you
I don't know that I don't. I know I don't have the Criterion. There is a chance I do own it though, but a previous version. I don't think I've seen it.
Okay.
But Inarritu is the filmmaker I'm definitely familiar with, especially the more recent stuff. And then I've definitely gone back and been aware of his other stuff, but don't believe I've seen his earlier work. I've only seen his more recent work with Birdman and Revenant, and he just hasn't really done a lot lately.
Yeah, 21 grams is really good.
That's one I have seen. I'm iffy on that one. I'm up and down on that one.
Is that the movie with Naomi Watts
yes.
and Sean Penn?
Yes.
I have the DVD of that. I have to upgrade to the Blu-ray
it's okay.
eventually.
It's okay. I liked it okay.
Yeah, I'll say this, Amores Perros is actually one of the movies, you know how we've talked about, I think, a few times on here, movies that you can only watch once and never really watch again for whatever uncomfortable reason, or maybe it's a film that disturbs you, or maybe it's a film you just hate. There are those things too. Amores Perros deals with dogfighting. There's a dogfighting element to it, and it's very graphic in its presentation of dogfighting, which of course is a horrific, inhumane sport, if you will, similar to things like cockfighting and stuff like that. And it's just, there are scenes in the film that if you're a dog lover, never watch this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, none of the animals while they were making the movie were hurt in any way or anything like that, but it looks so real that it will disturb you greatly. There are certain images of, dead dogs like being dragged out of a dogfighting pit, things like that. And it's truly horrific if you're a dog lover, as I am. So it was very difficult to get through, and it's not a movie I think that I would watch again. And while dogfighting isn't like even the main plot line, it's just a big enough element in the movie to where it disturbed me enough to I don't need to see this again.
Yeah,
it's a brilliantly well acted, greatly made movie, all that kind of stuff. But that element of it is graphic and disturbing to the point where I'm like, I can't watch this again.
Yeah.
Therefore, I don't own the Criterion. Now, that leads me to a predicament, Stephen, because I have certain collecting habits. So I've got to, if I have all the other Inarritu films, I got to have this movie eventually. But at what point do I buy it just to have it in the collection, but not to rewatch?
That's
something that plagues me.
Well, the way you are, man, it's like sometimes we make decisions like we're waiting around for something to happen, and it's like you're never gonna collect every movie you want by the time you die. So if you really want it, you should get it now if you can.
Yeah,
and if you don't really want it, then you obviously don't want it.
Right.
So maybe you'll never get you don't really want to complete Inarritu. You just think you need to.
That is also true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no need to. There's a want.
There's a want. There's an addiction to completing. And that's okay. But that's obviously your addiction isn't that bad because you won't complete it. Like you can complete it.
I mean, there are still certain gaps in certain collections that still bother me, but don't bother me to the point where I'm like, I'll pay anything to complete it. You know what I mean? Like I'm still at that point where like if I find Amores Perros for the right price to put in that Inarritu section, then I'll do it. But I won't pay like full price just to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not at that level of obsessive compulsive where that needs to happen right away. But it is one of those things where like there are a lot of films that I think, people see once and don't want to see again, but they still want to have in their collection for whatever reason.
Oh yeah.
I would see, Darren Aronofsky's Requiem for a Dream. I think is another one that just got a 4K release recently. And I remember when that was released and I saw people were like, yeah, I kind of don't want to see this movie in 4K.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be in 4K. I think I have the original Blu-ray release for it. And I'm not like, it's one I probably don't need to upgrade really at any point. Kind of feel like I don't need to.
It's okay.
Because it's not a movie I'm going to rewatch anymore. Like, for example, I just told you I upgraded Inglourious Bastards. That's a movie I'm going to rewatch, several times over.
It's got to be worth it.
But it's worth it. But Young Guns is, I think, a cult classic, Steven.
Yeah,
I think that's a movie that people love.
Yeah, it's a good one, and
Young Guns 2.
Yeah, and Young Guns too. I mean, I'm not the same. I don't feel the same as I do about Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2 that I do with Young Guns and Young Guns 2, because I think Young Guns 1 is probably the better movie.
I would agree.
Yeah, but it's it's a classic, and it's got such a fantastic cast, up and down. It's I love a good fun Western film. This kind of falls in line with other films like like a Tombstone, or even like a little bit later Maverick with Mel Gibson, that kind of fun Western film.
Now that's a movie I need in the collection. I just feel like that's a fun Western.
Especially with the Lethal Weapon reference at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where Danny Glover shows up robbing a bank.
He spoiled it.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. And then they look at each other.
The movie is like 30 years old. Get on it, people. True. Jesus Christ.
I don't get on it. But Young Guns, the Blu-ray for Young Guns in the U.S., I think it came out in 2007 from Lionsgate. So that is an old Blu-ray release. That must have been like, because the format, that was way at the beginning of the format. Young Guns could use a nice, new Blu-ray release. I'm not sure if this is from a new transfer or anything like that, but it could use just a nice new release in general, I think. Because, 2007 might as well have been forever ago.
Yeah.
There's always a good... It was literally another decade.
There's always a good chance you see an Australian company like them or Imprint put it out. There might be an American release coming soon.
And for special features on this, there's only like an audio commentary, and then a making of, and then another like something about the real Billy the Kid. For those of you who don't know who Young Guns, it takes place in like the old American West. I think it's centered around like outlaws and stuff like that. It's been a few years since I've seen the movie, like Billy the Kid and stuff like that. You know
who I see putting this out? I can see a Shout Select. This could be a Shout Select release.
Yeah, I know Lionsgate holds on to their stuff for a while, so I don't know if that's the case, but I would welcome it. Yeah, Stephen was talking about the cast: Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, and this is 1988, so this is them in their young, popular prime, if you will. This was Emilio before he was in Mighty Ducks, before he was in the first Mission Impossible movie for the opening scene, and anything like that. This was Charlie Sheen. Oh my goodness, this may have been right after he was in Platoon.
Yeah.
But before he was in... Actually, this may have even been after he was in Wall Street. Well, right around the same time. So this was, young Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, of course. Terrence Stamp is in the movie as well. Jack Palance. It's good. It's a great, great cult classic. It does get a lot more love than its sequel, I would say. For example, the sequel didn't get a Blu-ray release until 2018. It took them 11 years to put out Young Guns 2 on Blu-ray, as opposed to its original. So that gives you a little hint of which one is more favorable there. But that is it from Umbrella, a little eclectic group you have there. And then, Steven, something happened later in the week that shook the movie collecting world to its core. That's the only real way I can kind of intro this. So we all know Criterion does whatever the heck they want these days. And they are releasing the Disney Pixar film Wall-E, the film that came out in 2008. And you may be saying to yourself, wait a minute, Criterion's putting out a Disney film? Why, yes, they are. They are putting out this movie directed by Andrew Stanton, and Steven, when this dropped, you were taken aback a bit, weren't you?
Sure. I don't know.
No.
I think everybody was a little bit like they probably assumed it was like somebody trying to make a joke or something.
Oh yeah, because there's been so many joke like criteria, like people like great graphic design. You can Photoshop whatever the heck you want. People have been photoshopping fake Criterion covers for years now for movies. Like I remember Kindergarten Cop they've been doing for years and stuff like that. Like The Room, they would do one for The Room. So Wall-E, when this showed up, people were like, "Wait a minute, is this a joke or is this real?" But
then it's like posted on all the social media for Criterion. And it's like, okay, I guess
people
this is
got
real.
The email. I didn't get the email that said Wall-E was coming. I got when I first saw it was you posting it in our Facebook group, Chasing Labels, and then I saw it directly from the Criterion Collection Facebook page. They posted it, and then all the other groups posted it. Damn, yeah, we're getting Wall-E. And it kind of makes sense. Out of all the Pixar films, I think Wall-E makes sense.
Yeah. I think in the sense of its subject matter and what it did for digital animation, I think it definitely fits in there. And it's definitely it's not one at the time that I loved, but as I've gotten older, I've been more attuned to it. I mean, it definitely I think is a worthy film to the collection. And
yeah, and I'm not. Steven and I are not like some people are. I mean, the term is out there, so I'm just going to use it. Gatekeeping. When it comes to literally everything, there are gatekeepers for everything. If it's Star Wars, if it's Marvel, Lord of the Rings right now is getting people all stuffed up about stuff. I mean, everything has those people who are like, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be because this is the way it always has been, stuff like that, whatever. And they want to keep things based off of like lore and tradition and whatever nonsense that is. But Steven and I have always been on the same wavelength when it comes to Criterion. They can release whatever the heck they want.
Well, I mean, any of these labels, there's no rules here, guys.
There's no rules.
I mean, all these labels are going to get, if they can get the license to something they know they can sell well. I mean, you can't forget that these are businesses that have to make money, and they do a lot of, as we say, the Lord's work by putting out and restoring some of these movies that probably don't sell as well as they'd like them to, but they do it because they know it preserves something that's great. And but sometimes it's good to have these relationships with these studios that have some name brand recognition where they can really like make their money so that they can put out more of this more obscure stuff. And that's just something we've talked about with any company that has the means to get a hold of something, like in this case with Disney, which might be one of the only labels. Maybe an Arrow could have pulled this, but like
I don't even know.
Working with Disney to put out some of their films is a big deal. No matter how you feel about Disney, they've put out some really like high profiled and critically acclaimed things, especially in their animation.
Yeah, I would say not that in and of itself, but I just think, like I said, what we're seeing right now is that there are no rules anymore in terms of what a company can and cannot put out, because we've seen so many different things over the last year since we've started this podcast. We've seen so many, quote unquote rules be bent, rules be, I guess, broken or whatever that may be. But when it comes to Criterion putting out a mainstream movie, I guess Disney is about as mainstream as you can get. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And also, it doesn't mean, you have to also keep in mind the culture and things like that. People who are buying Criterions now are getting younger and younger. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And there's been a lot of young people that we've met, we've talked to, that we've had here on the podcast. People who grew up watching Disney Pixar films. I mean, Steven and I did. We're both like kind of older millennials. I'm 35. Steven is a little younger than me.
I'm almost 34. Yeah.
Yeah. So see, we're relatively the same age, and we grew up watching these movies. But then there are people, a decade or even younger than that from us that are just starting their Criterion collections.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're gonna see Wall-E in it, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I watched that movie when I was very, very young. Again, Criterion, I want this, and so Criterion is kind of almost future-proofing themselves a bit in a way with this, but they're also with this deal. Maybe this gets them access to the 20th Century Fox back catalog, which Disney owns now. It gets them to the Buena Vista stuff, the Touchstone stuff.
Yeah.
Things, a lot of their live action stuff that they really don't give, any real love or any real attention to when it comes to physical media. They'll put them out on like DVDs that came out forever ago, and then that's about it. So who knows? I would really love them to get more, like I said, back catalog 20th Century Fox stuff, because there's so much of that catalog that's just either out on DVD or hasn't been seen yet. I mean, something like, off the top of my head, Nightmare Alley is a 20th Century Fox title that Criterion has put out recently, well, about last couple of years. But that's something that I find very fascinating. And this Wall-E thing is also interesting because, Steven, just getting back to, I guess, what this release is in and of itself, this is a stacked release. This release completely kicks the other one that Disney put out themselves out the window. Disney did put out a bunch of 4Ks over the last few years, Wall-E being one of them. And they put the original 4K out in 2020, so that wasn't that long ago. And that came with, of course, a few special features on 2 discs, a few things here and there, deleted scenes, behind the scenes, shorts, whatnot. This release here, I think, includes all of that, plus new stuff up the wazoo. So it's a really stacked release. I don't know if this is going to be... it says 2 discs. No, 3 discs. This is a 3-disc set. So we're getting 4K, and I'm assuming 2 Blu-rays. That's my guess. It's going to be a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo pack. This movie, obviously, I don't think Criterion had to do anything. I don't know if they did anything when it came to like the master.
Probably didn't have to do any kind of restoration. It's probably already done for the 4K they already did.
Yeah, they just did a 4K release 2 years ago.
Yeah,
there's nothing really there. And this release is supposed to come out in November.
Yes.
So it's part of that November slate, which I think they already announced their November titles. So did they not?
No, isn't that what's about to come out probably next week?
No,
or is that December maybe?
It makes, let's see, upcoming. Yeah, they already announced their November releases. Okay. That was The Power of the Dog, In the Mood for Love, Infernal Affairs.
So this is added to that slate.
So this is added right next to Malcolm X.
Yeah, right next to, it just goes right in there, slips in there.
It's coming out the same day as Malcolm X.
So just great double
Spike
feature.
Lee, yeah, you can get your Spike Lee biopic, and you can get your Wall-E, cautionary tale about the future movie.
Yeah, I mean, look, if I as she's talking about gatekeeping and stuff, and I understand some people look at, especially if you're like mostly a devoted Criterion, head, that you don't really delve too much into other labels, and you're just really into Criterion, that this might seem weird to you, or this might seem like
sacrilege.
Yeah, but.
Like, I can't believe the same movie that puts out the 400 Blows, the same studio that puts out 400 Blows, is also putting out Wall-E. And it's like, I think you have to expand your horizons, open up your mind that a company can do both, and they can both be as equally great a release.
Yeah.
But for different reasons.
I think if you're thinking in that way, it's honestly more of you need to look inward. Because if you're only thinking that a label like Criterion, that's one of the biggest labels out there when it comes to their reach and their means, is only needing to put out avant-garde cinema, art cinema. If that's all they are putting out, then I don't know how they would ever survive, because they got to reach a wider audience, and sometimes that means putting out something that's a little bit more modern or a little bit more, broader appeal. And that doesn't mean that it's lesser. Like, there's a lot of good cinema that's for everybody, and this is one of them. I think Wall-E is definitely a just beautifully animated film that also, plays into silent film. It's first 15, 20 minutes of the movie is like all silent. Like,
yeah, the opening segments of this movie with just Wall-E on this, abandoned dystopian Earth of just empty isolation and nothingness is, I think, really powerful.
Yeah.
His whole relationship with, Eve, is really beautiful, really cute, and it does, it hits a lot of those fundamental themes that have been prevalent really throughout a lot of Disney, but I think just prevalent in general when it comes to society, love being a very strong things that binds us all and whatnot, and, very, very endearing. I mean, some of the later stuff in the movie is, I think, a bit lesser than that when you get into kind of like the main plot of just, I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but I think when it gets into more kind of traditional Disney plot thing where you got to like stop a bad thing from happening and whatnot, it's a little lesser of a film, but it's still, I think, really good. And Andrew Stanton is a director who he did Finding Nemo and other Pixar films as well.
Yeah, I believe he's worked on. I mean, really, he's worked on a bulk of their great stuff. Like I think he did Inside Out.
He was the director on Finding Dory, John Carter, which I think is criminally underrated, by the way.
Yeah, that was.
I watched it for the first time a couple of years ago, and I thought it was very entertaining, very good. He also he co-directed A Bug's Life.
Yeah,
which is kind of like Seven Samurai.
I was gonna say if there was any other, if we're gonna talk about any other Pixar's, Bug's Life kind of would be interesting because it is a set. It would pair with Seven Samurai, that's in the collection.
It really would. Yeah, it's the same type of premise. The Finding Nemo is
kind of a classic one. Yeah.
These days. He also directed some television stuff as well. Like he actually directed two episodes of Stranger Things and an episode of Better Call Saul. But he also wrote. What did he write on that? He wrote the story for Toy Story 3. I wanted to bring that up. And I think he wrote the story and screenplay for Toy Story 4. He did some writing, I think, on the Lightyear movie that just came out. He also did the screenplay for Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, so he was one of the guys that was always around at the beginning with John Lasseter and all them guys. And he then slowly made his way into the directing side where I think he's really, stood out. Yeah,
he's worked a lot with Disney. I mean, even so recently as to writing, I think the story. Yeah, I think he wrote the screenplays for the last two episodes of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, episodes 5 and 6. How many episodes were there in the Kenobi series?
I think it's like 6.
Yeah, I think there were 6. So he wrote the screenplays for 5 and 6, which probably were the two best episodes, I would say, or two of the better episodes of that miniseries. So yeah, he's worked with Disney pretty much throughout his career. But like I said, this release is getting. They went full tilt when it came to just a lot of special features and whatnot. And this is, like I said, this is not out of Criterion's realm to do this. And people have been, ironically, clamoring for more animation to be included in the collection.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, we don't know how extensive this will be. I mean, we talked about like how this could open us up to Fox titles and other studio titles that Disney now owns. Yeah. But what does this mean about other Disney properties? And funny enough, if you go back about a year ago, we did an episode which we just did another episode with Mark McLeod from Orbit DVD. But the first time we did an episode with him, we talked about, because he loves Disney movies, and we talked about Disney films we thought could go to boutiques.
Oh, we did.
Yeah.
Holy shit, we did.
Yeah, which is funny. Which I don't think we talked about any of the Pixar things.
Up Wall-E? If we brought up Wall-E, I swear to God, we're geniuses.
I'm going to have to go back, but I don't.
Yeah, they need to give us a cut of the money.
I think we all tried to go for more obscure Disney films.
I think we did.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny that we did do an episode talking about Disney films in boutiques, and then a year later we now are getting some of the most mainstream of Disney film, going to Criterion out of all the boutiques, the most kind of prestigious one. But I think this could lead to some interesting things. Are we going to see some older Disney animations get their day on a boutique like Criterion, like a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, like the original?
Oh yeah, Yeah, that would be interesting. Going back to the classic era
Yeah.
of Disney. Yeah, things like Jungle Book,
Yeah.
or like you said, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, things like that. What is interesting, this is not the first time Criterion has gone hand to hand with Disney a bit. I don't know if you're aware of this, Steven. Do you know who puts out Armageddon and The Rock?
Disney, yeah.
It's Disney Buena Vista.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do they reacquire the rights to Armageddon and The Rock? That's the big question.
I would say yes, but this also means I think some of the early M. Night Shyamalan is Buena Vista, and I think you could put out The Sixth Sense now.
Sixth Sense would be a really good Criterion release.
Yeah, and I believe Unbreakable as well.
Yeah, those fit right into. I mean, I guess you want to say more traditional what Criterion is known
definitely
for.
Definitely the Sixth Sense would be a big deal.
Yeah, that was a big movie when it came out,
and it's an Oscar-nominated film.
It is.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't really argue against it.
Yeah, you can't.
I mean, and Criterion does put out horror, but they don't put out a lot of modern horror. They put out a lot of like classic, like Japanese horror.
And that would be a big one. That would be a big, and that's part of like what that's one that kind of goes along more with what our episode with Mark McCloud was that we chose things like the Black Cauldron, like some more Disney family oriented things, but things like that were actually like live actiony things. Like I made a comment online. Open Range, the Kevin Costner film, the Western, is a Disney distributed film. It did just recently get a 101 release, but pretty bare bones. I don't think there was really much done in the sense of restoration. So you could put out Open Range from Kevin Costner, and that's a really great Western underseen that you could do. And there's probably a good amount of them films like that Disney has put out that has kind of disappeared off people's radars because they don't push anything they do that's older.
They really don't push their early live action stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like any live action stuff they did before the 2000s, they really don't.
They don't care.
Kind of
except
care
for like
about.
Mighty Ducks and like.
Even then, Mighty Ducks has DVD releases, and I think they have Blu-ray releases only through their like Disney Movie Club type deal.
Yes,
that's where they put out actually a lot of their back catalog on Blu-ray is put out through that Disney Movie Club store exclusive type stuff.
Yeah,
that's when you get like a Goofy movie and then the sequel to the Goofy movie. That's where you get a lot of, like I just said, Mighty Ducks and whatnot, and a lot of the older stuff, like maybe even like The Parent Trap, like I'm talking like the original with like Haley Mills and stuff like that. That's where you get a lot of that stuff. That would be nice to come to more mainstream availability, because if you're not part of that Disney Movie Club type of thing, you got to track them down on eBay, and then people charge like $50 for a Goofy movie. It's like, I want it, but I don't want it that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Powerline as much as the next person. But that's just fascinating.
It's going to be interesting.
I'm curious what doors this opens.
Yeah.
And I'm actually like, I'm excited for this release. I'm excited about it. Now, does this mean that this will be a hot seller? I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I guess we will have to see come November.
It depends. It's going to depend on how it's marketed too, because Criterions are, typically only sold in stores through the Barnes and Noble, and this of course will be during the sale time. Right near the end of it, but it'll be during the sale month for Barnes & Noble. And so are they going to decide to release this particular Criterion in maybe other stores just to get it a wider reach? Because it is Disney. It is a Disney film.
That is a good question.
Yeah.
That's actually a question I didn't even think of. Because, will we see this at a Best Buy next to The Little Mermaid?
Yeah.
Or will we see it next to The Lion King at a Best Buy?
At a Target. Is Target going to carry it?
I don't even know if Target carries movies anymore. It's so damn sad.
I know.
But for the bare bones Best Buys that are around me here, all they really have is Disney movies.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's about it.
I wonder what the strategy will be with a film like this that is a popular movie, but it is being still put out by Criterion. So is anything changing for the exposure, or is it going to just be the same old, where it's going to pop, it's going to be online, it'll get advertised online through word of mouth, and then at Barnes and Nobles, that's the same thing here. I'm wondering,
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to gauge now. I don't want to go down this whole track. It's a whole other thing. Is like, who are the people that are buying physical copies of Disney movies now? That's another question I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah,
I guess
with
that's more
Disney
for like our
Plus, I mean,
listeners at
it's
home,
yeah.
because I know, for example, I talk to a lot of people who have children. I mean, Steven, you have a child, but it's like, I mean, you already have your whole movie collection. But let's say hypothetically, you didn't have a movie collection that had any Disney movies in it. Are you going to start buying them, or you're just going to have them watch on Disney Plus? Probably going to have them watch on Disney Plus because it's easier and more affordable. That's
It's
another
definitely
thing.
easier in the sense of like convenience, but like
Right,
if you're prepared, I can bring a stack of Blu-rays upstairs and bam,
right.
bam, bam, I can put them in. Like
Yeah,
it's
you're in a your child's in a unique situation where they already have a built-in
well, yeah, but
movie thing there.
even so, like uh, if I didn't have them in my collection yet, I might
Right.
go and buy them if I really like them. Now, like with
Mm.
Disney, for me in the last few years, especially since Disney Plus got introduced, I don't go buy everything. Like, well, I don't even really pay attention to the comic book movies as much as I was
I was
anyway.
actually just gonna say that I'm far behind when it comes to buying the comic book movies.
Yeah, I don't.
I haven't bought any
Yeah,
MCU. I don't think I bought an MCU movie since Endgame.
I haven't even bought any of them.
I don't think I bought.
I think I've
Yeah.
bought. I don't even think I've bought the first Avenger. Well, no, I might have the first Avenger movie, but not in the second one.
No,
But not anything after that. I don't have Infinity War. Moving on. I don't
so
have.
you don't. Okay, so you have none of the Phase 4 stuff that's out. You have
Basically,
no
yeah.
Black Widow, no Shang-Chi, no
No.
Spider-Man,
Nope.
no Spider-Man movie. To be honest, this is a little thing for people at home who maybe buy those things or may buy more mainstream stuff. Honestly, wait until Black Friday because they'll
Yeah.
all be like dirt cheap.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You can get like 4Ks of the MCU stuff that are typically $25 to $30. They'll have them for $10 or cheaper,
Yeah.
or maybe like $8. That's when you buy them. Even if you're just buying the Blu-rays will be $5 to $10.
Yeah.
It'll be dirt cheap. That's how I did a lot of that buying. But that's more Disney mainstream stuff. But I'm just saying, I don't. That was the one thing I was just thinking about is who's going to buy this Wally release. You know, I don't see people with children typically buying them. Some may. If you're a collector and you're a fan out there, but not like the more general public. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
general public, I don't know that they're going to be seeing this and feeling the need to get it, but
No, not if it's streaming on Disney Plus.
probably not.
I mean, to be honest, we're living in an age right now where people don't have DVD players, people don't have Blu-ray players, just because they don't have a need for it.
Yeah.
We talked about this a lot early, like when we did Cinema Discovery Project, where it's kind of like how are people consuming movies these days, and when it comes to streaming, it's just way more affordable just to have an internet connection and maybe a computer or a tablet,
Yeah.
and then you can watch movies in your TV that way. It really all depends on your financial budget and all that kind of stuff. But that's a whole other story for a different time. But this is the Wall-E release from the Criterion Collection. I'm excited for it. Steve, are you gonna get it? I'm wondering that too.
And, I have like the original. I don't even think I have a Blu-ray. I think I just have the DVD.
I gotta check
I
actually.
think I have the DVD for when it first came out, so I never upgraded this
I don't
thing.
even know what.
So if I have the DVD, then most certainly I'm definitely gonna upgrade. But if I do have a Blu-ray, I might not be in a rush. But I think I would eventually come around to buying this. Thing is with Criterion's, it takes me a while now to come around to Criterion's with my budget. So, some of this stuff has to wait. But I think
Right.
I would get this if I was able to.
Yeah, I think I have the original Blu-ray release. If I was trying to look on my shelves, I couldn't tell, but I think I have it. So this would be an upgrade for me, and it's even an upgrade from the 4K that came out a few years ago. If you're interested in all the extras that are into it,
Yeah.
If you're not, then I guess you can just kind of hold on to that. And you're not really missing out on picture quality stuff. I think for the most part. Although I did hear through the grapevine, I do have to shout out one of our members of our group and a listener of the show, Celeste La Cabra, who mentioned I think that original Blu-ray release doesn't have an HDR or Dolby Vision or anything like that. So that may be something that people are into as well, if they have HDR and all that kind of stuff. It did have HDR10. It didn't have Dolby Vision. Dolby Vision is a little bit different. Dolby Vision is kind of like a souped up version of HDR, if you will. So this has that, which is, so it'll make it look aesthetically kind of different, brighter most definitely, and the colors will beat you in the face a little bit more. But that is an extra thing I did want to mention.
All right.
So that's it for this big ass release. This thing rocked the world.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's interesting. Just throwing one more thing in at the end of the year for us to clamor about when it comes to collecting.
Yep.
So I think that's it for everything, Stephen.
That's going to be it for this week. Yep. So, Andrew, where can you be found?
You can find me on Twitter at Capzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can also find me at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Instagram, Twitter, or you can even go over to my Letterboxd at Chasing Labels. You can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.